Picture all your effort to please others turning into a weight that suffocates you. You want to be accepted, you crave recognition, you long to be liked, but the harder you try, the clearer it becomes that the people cheering for you today can just as easily turn their backs on you tomorrow. You start to wonder if it's really worth pouring so much energy into chasing affection that, deep down, was never in your control. And that's when a question rises that you can't ignore. What would happen if you stopped chasing other people's love and started to understand the real power of authority? That's the crossroads you face when you look at your life and realize that so many of your choices have been shaped by the need to be liked. You smile when you don't feel like it, you give in when you should say no, you agree when the right thing would be to walk away. And even though on the surface it seems to work, something inside you starts to crack. Because deep down, you know the truth. Affection is fickle, recognition is fragile, and what feels like a victory today can easily become indifference or contempt tomorrow. You feel stuck between two forces. On one side, the hope that if you do right by others, they'll repay you with loyalty and respect. On the other, the certainty that every time you try, you end up drained without gaining the stability you were looking for. And in that tension, the uncomfortable truth shows up. Maybe it's not about being liked, it's about being respected. The breaking point comes on an ordinary afternoon, when after giving your all to someone, you realize it meant nothing. Your efforts are quickly forgotten, your words lose weight, and your presence stops mattering. That moment shakes you, because you see clearly that you've been betting on a currency that devalues at the whim of others. And then the dramatic question hits. Is it safer to be loved or to be feared? This is where Machiavelli steps onto the stage, not as some distant figure trapped in a dusty book, but as an unexpected mentor speaking across centuries. His words cut through with the bluntness of someone who saw human nature without sugarcoating it. Men forget the death of their fathers sooner than the loss of their inheritance. In other words, affection fades fast, but fear and respect last much longer. You start looking at your life through that lens, and suddenly everything shifts. You realize that every obstacle you face comes back to the same root, the expectation that others will value your sacrifices. A friend who disappears when you need them most. A coworker who takes advantage of your trust. A group that enjoys your generosity but has no hesitation leaving you behind once you're no longer useful. Each test confirms what you already sensed. Depending on other people's love is like building on sand. You try for small wins, like setting clear boundaries or saying what you really think, and you notice that while some people get uncomfortable, others begin to see you differently. Respect flickers in the eyes of those who once thought of you as easy to manipulate. But setbacks come too. Loneliness stings, doubt follows you around, and the temptation to chase approval again feels like a warm shelter you could crawl back to at any moment. In those ups and downs, you stumble on something powerful. It's not about turning cruel or instilling fear for its own sake. It's about realizing that firmness, respect, and clarity are far stronger than any forced smile. Fear, when it's about respecting your limits, becomes a tool. Love, when seen as a gift that arrives without chasing it, stops being your obsession. The toughest dilemma hits when you ask yourself, what if I stop trying to be liked and end up alone? That fear paralyzes you, because it feels like letting go of affection means sentencing yourself to isolation. But in that moment of crisis, you grasp the paradox. It's only when you stop chasing love that you start attracting real relationships. Because the people who stay no longer do it out of convenience. They stay because they respect who you are and value your essence. The transformation happens when you decide to bet on the security of respect instead of the fragility of fleeting affection. It's not that you give up on being liked, you just stop chasing it as if your life depends on it. You realize real strength lies in holding your authority without fearing rejection. And in that instant, you're free, because what once felt like a prison built out of expectations becomes a space of dignity and inner power. Out of this journey come 3 clear lessons. Never base your worth on someone else's approval, because that approval is unstable. Set firm boundaries, because they mark the line between being used and being respected. And remember that genuine affection only shows up when you're not chasing it, when you inspire it through the consistency of your character. And now the question comes back to you, louder than ever. Will you keep chasing being liked at any cost, or will you choose the harder but safer path? the path of building true respect and authority? That decision marks the beginning of your transformation. The biggest pain you face today isn't a lack of talent or opportunities, it's that silent obsession with being liked. You call it politeness, you disguise it as empathy, but deep down you know it's fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of not fitting in, fear of not being loved. And that fear comes at a price. It costs you time, because you waste it pleasing people who will never truly value you. It drains your energy, because you wear a mask that doesn't fit your skin. It damages your reputation because those around you can sense you're not acting out of conviction, but out of a desperate need for approval. The root of this problem becomes obvious once you strip away the excuses. You were raised to believe that being liked equals being safe. That if everyone approves of you, you'll be shielded from rejection and failure. But here's the hard truth. That formula, as tempting as it sounds, is built on sand. Affection depends on moods, convenience, and other people's interests. What they give you with smiles today, they can snatch away tomorrow with indifference. That's the real root cause, confusing affection with stability. And out of that confusion come the false solutions. People tell you to be nicer, to smile more, to avoid conflict. They suggest you should adapt to everyone and everything, as if your life were just a leaf drifting in the wind. But what they don't tell you is that this kind of compliance breeds disrespect. Because when you always give in, when you never set boundaries, when your voice gets reduced to what others want to hear, the message is clear. Your worth depends on their approval. And that's the most dangerous ground you can stand on. This is where the need for an honest diagnosis shows up. If you want to know where you stand, ask yourself, do you catch yourself saying things you don't mean just to keep the peace? Do you struggle to say no because you're scared of letting people down? Do you find yourself constantly checking if everyone else is happy with you, even when you're not happy yourself? If you said yes, you're in the beginner phase, stuck in the invisible web of chasing affection. If you've already tried setting boundaries but end up drowning in guilt afterward, you're in the intermediate stage. And if you've learned to hold your ground in some situations but still hesitate when the risk of rejection feels bigger, you're in the advanced stage, just one step away from fully breaking free from the need to be liked. The solution isn't magical, but it is clear once you see it as a system. Think of it as a four-step path. The first step is awakening, recognizing that your need to please isn't kindness, it's fear in disguise. The goal here is to face what you've lost by chasing approval. The action is to brutally write down how much it has cost you to live for others' validation. The sign of progress is discomfort. If the truth stings, it means you're moving forward. The common trap is justifying it with excuses like, "That's just who I am," or "I don't want to change." The second step is setting limits, drawing clear boundaries with people. The goal is to reclaim your personal space. The action is to pick one situation where you'll say no, without long explanations. The sign of progress is sitting with the awkward silence that follows and not backing down. The biggest obstacle here is guilt, that nagging feeling that you're letting others down when in reality you're just protecting yourself. The third step is firmness, showing consistency between what you think and what you do. The goal is to let your authority speak for itself without forcing it. The action is to speak your mind clearly in a situation where you'd normally stay quiet. The sign of progress is that others start treating you with more respect, even if they disagree with you. The typical trap here is the fear of confrontation, which only fades through repeated practice. The fourth step is consolidation, building long-term respect. The goal is to stop basing your worth on fleeting affection. The action is to shape your relationships around reciprocity. If someone doesn't respect you, they don't get a spot in your life. The sign of progress is a sense of lightness, because you're no longer carrying the weight of trying to please everyone. The most common trap here is attachment, the resistance to letting go of people who only stick around because you are convenient. This framework isn't just empty theory. Think about someone you know who always tried to be liked and ended up exhausted. They lost opportunities because they didn't want to rock the boat. They lost money because they said yes to projects that didn't benefit them. They lost peace because they could never just be themselves. Now picture the opposite. Someone who chose to be clear, set boundaries, and stand firm. At first, they were criticized, even rejected, but over time the right people sought them out. Not because they faked being liked, but because they inspired respect. That's the visible transformation you can create for yourself. If you wanted to turn this system into a concrete plan, you could break it down into 30 days. In week 1, write down all the costs of your need to please. In week 2, practice saying a firm no in a low-stakes situation. In week 3, share your honest opinion in a public setting without sugarcoating it. And in week 4, clean up your relationships. Figure out who respects you and who only benefits from your compliance. The metric is simple. How many times a day do you act out of conviction instead of fear? Now you might already be thinking of objections. If I stop pleasing people, I'll end up alone. The truth is that initial loneliness is a filter, not a life sentence. If I stand firm, people will hate me. No, they'll hate losing their grip on you. If I stop giving in, I'll look selfish. No, you'll look whole. If I set boundaries, I'll miss out on opportunities. Actually, you'll only lose the ones that were never worth it. If I choose respect over affection, I'll come across as cold. No, you'll come across as authentic. The biggest risk on this path isn't losing love. It's realizing how deeply you've been betraying yourself. The way to guard against that risk is simple. Remember that respect is non-negotiable. It's the foundation of every healthy relationship, including the one you have with yourself. Now you've got a roadmap, a diagnosis, and a system. The rest is up to you. Tell me in the comments what your biggest struggle is when it comes to breaking free from the need to be liked. And if this message hit home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe, because in the next episode we'll dig into how to turn respect into real influence, without falling into the trap of fear or the illusion of affection. There are 10 keys that can completely change the way you stop chasing approval and start building real respect. They're not random steps, but pieces of the same mechanism that, like the gears of a clock, move together to give you stability and direction. Think of it as a bridge. Each key is a beam that holds up your passage from fear to conviction. If one is missing, the whole structure shakes. If you put them all together, you can cross firmly into a place where you no longer depend on other people's whims. The first key is radical awareness. You can't change what you refuse to name. This matters because self-deception feeds conformity. For example, when you smile just to keep the peace even though you're boiling inside. The common mistake here is downplaying those sacrifices with phrases like, "It's not a big deal." The 24-hour action is to write down 3 moments during the day when you changed your behavior just to please someone. Seeing them on paper is eye-opening. The second key is explicit boundaries. Without boundaries, your life is an open field where anyone can walk in and take what they want. This matters because respect starts where the line is clearly drawn. Imagine a coworker who keeps dumping their work on you. If you never say, "That's enough," that abuse becomes the norm. The common mistake is hiding the boundary under endless excuses that only weaken it. The immediate action is to practice a short, unpolished no in a low-risk situation. The third key is visible consistency. Feeling conviction isn't enough. You have to show it. This matters because what others respect in you is built on what they actually see you stand for, not what you secretly believe. Example: someone always talks about respect but stays quiet every time they're interrupted. The common mistake is excusing those contradictions out of fear of confrontation. The practical action is to pick one situation where you normally keep quiet and this time, state your opinion calmly but firmly. The fourth key is strategic prioritization. Not every battle is the same, and fighting all of them at once drains you. This matters because choosing where to act multiplies your impact. Clear example: if you try to set boundaries everywhere at the same time, you'll burn out. The common mistake is confusing firmness with rigidity, as if you had to take on everything at once. The 24-hour action is to pick one relationship where the lack of respect is costing you the most, and start there. The fifth key is gradual practice. Respect isn't built in a single day. It takes repeated effort. This matters because both mind and body need time to get used to holding discomfort. Think of it like a muscle. It doesn't grow from one extreme workout but from consistent reps. The common mistake is quitting after the first setback, thinking, "I'm just not cut out for this." The immediate action is to commit to one small daily practice. A short no, a clear opinion, a held boundary. The sixth key is social calibration. Learning to read reactions helps you adjust without losing direction. This matters because respect isn't rigidity, it's firmness with intelligence. Example, someone confronts you aggressively, your best response isn't shouting louder, but holding your ground calmly, which leaves a stronger impression. The common mistake is mistaking flexibility for weakness. The practical action is to notice how dynamics shift when you respond from calm instead of nerves. The seventh key is selective detachment. You can't expect respect from everyone, and letting go becomes a necessary filter. This matters because the energy you free up by leaving unhealthy relationships can be invested in the ones that actually give back. Example, a group of friends who only show up when they need something. The common mistake is staying out of fear of being alone. The immediate action is to write down 3 names of people who only reach out when it benefits them, and start cutting down the space they take in your life. The eighth key is early detection of toxic patterns. This matters because what you tolerate once will almost always repeat. Example, someone constantly interrupts you in meetings and you never call it out. Soon everyone will. The common mistake is telling yourself it's just a small thing. The 24-hour action is to spot the first sign of disrespect and respond right away, before it becomes the norm. The ninth key is self-deception watch. A lot of the time, it's not that others don't respect you, it's that you convince yourself it's fine just to avoid conflict. This matters because the most dangerous betrayal is the one you do to yourself. Example, you justify someone's dismissiveness just because you don't want to rock the boat. The common mistake is dressing up cowardice as patience. The practical action is to ask yourself, if a close friend went through this, would I tell them to just suck it up or to stand up for themselves? The 10th key is rejecting empty sacrifice. Don't confuse giving with self-slavery. This matters because giving without limits, hoping to be liked in return, only leaves you drained. Example, you work endless overtime with no recognition, thinking it'll earn you respect. The common mistake is believing effort alone guarantees respect. The 24-hour action is to pinpoint one area in your life where you're giving without any reciprocity, and stop. These 10 keys aren't random, they form a map that adapts to your level. If you're just starting, the first 3 are urgent. If you already have some practice, the middle levers speed things up. And if you feel like you're making progress, watch out for the anti-patterns, because one mistake there can throw you back to the beginning. Think of it like a ladder. You can't skip to the top without climbing the rungs in order. To keep from getting lost, condense these keys into a daily checklist. Carry it with you, and every night ask yourself honestly, did I check off at least 3 of these actions today? That simple routine becomes your compass. Now tell me, which of these keys do you think is the most underrated, the one you should put into practice right now? Save this video as your manual, because anytime you start doubting your path, coming back here will remind you that respect is way more solid than any attempt to just be liked.